Hey, we back. I'm here once again talking about the controversial issue of slash commands. If you haven't seen my last video, it was also on slash commands, and I basically talked about why they suck, because they do. Feel free to go and have a look at that if you agree with me or if you don't. Either way, you can see my opinion on slash commands in general. But today we're talking about something different, because we do not have slash commands in. The last video was recorded before we got slash commands. Now this is after slash commands. Slash commands have been enforced on all bots as of, well, for me yesterday, for you probably 2 days ago, depends when I get this video uploaded. But yes, you can test now. If I go for something like notbot, we're going to see that these commands aren't working anymore, and you'll find that's the case with probably most bots. However, with some bots still works fine. We can do our OWO hunts, and we're still getting our response pretty easily. We can also still do our Mede rolls. So what's up with that? How come some bots have to use slash commands and some bots don't? That is the main topic of conversation for this one, but we're also going to be talking about, in this video, how to get around using slash commands in general on any bot. For example, Karuta especially is a bot we're going to be talking about. Karuta has forced slash commands. If I do KRM, for instance, we're not going to get a response there. However, there are ways to get around that as well. So we'll be getting to that a bit later in the video. Feel free to skip to it if that's what you're here for. So what I'm actually going to do, speaking of Karuta, interestingly, is go over to the Karuta Hub, because we have a pretty nice couple announcements here that explain some things that we're going to be talking about. So we have this thing called privileged intent, which you've probably seen being mentioned a lot of times. This is what you need in order to still have your bot read text messages. Notbot and Karuta and most other bots do not have privileged intent, therefore they cannot read message content, whereas bots like Mede and OWO do have privileged intent, and that's why they can read messages. They can still use their regular commands. Now, privileged intent is meant to be a function that's there for bots that depend on being able to read messages specifically. So for example, the feature of OWOBot, which counts how many times you type OWO. Now you can see that as a command if you want, a lot of people do, but if you think about it, this isn't actually a command. If you think about OWO, back when it first started, it was there counting how many times you said OWO and putting them on a leaderboard. This is probably OWOBot's first ever feature, right? And you don't want to have a slash OWO because it's not a command. That is meant to be part of natural conversation. You just put OWO and it just keeps track of that, right? So its first initial feature is dependent on being able to read messages. This is probably why OWOBot has received the privileged intent permissions from Discord and is allowed to continue using it for its prefix. Now, admittedly, a lot of its other commands maybe don't need privileged intent in order to run, but I can see why it got it. Mede, on the other hand, is another issue. I don't see why they got it, but we'll talk about that in a second. Now, Craig says here that Karuta has a few features that depend on privileged intent, and that's why they applied for it. Now, I don't actually know what those features are, but suffice to say that actually they did not get granted it. So whatever Craig thinks the features are that are depending on privileged intent are not good enough in Discord's eyes to get privileged intent, whereas I guess Mede apparently does have a good enough reason to get it. This is why it's a bit of a grey area, because you can't really tell when a bot's going to get approved for privileged intent or not. Craig points out here, though, it was our understanding that being approved for the intent would not give bots a free pass to continue using text commands, since that isn't cited as an allowed use case. So what he's saying there is that even if they do have a reason for being approved intent, they still have to move their actual commands over to slash commands. So for example, on OWOBot, you can say, yes, they get approved their privileged intent because they're meant to count how many OWOs you get. However, then when you're doing something like hunting and battling, that's a regular command, so that should still be done with slash commands. But what, of course, OWObot has done is gone, well, we still have permission to read text messages, so we're going to keep using text-based commands, which, of course, makes their user base happier, and I can absolutely see why they would do it. In their position, I would do the same thing, because if you can avoid using slash commands, absolutely do. But what you get is that then we've gotten a little abusive here, and we're just trying to use our privileged intent to avoid using slash commands, rather than because we actually need them. Which Craig goes on to point out here, this has naturally resulted in other bots who do not have a legitimate use case for the intent to shoehorn in a new feature in order to apply for the intent, just so they can bypass implementing slash commands, which, like I say, is a little abusive of the system in general. Now, admittedly, yes, if I was in their position, I would do the same thing, for sure. But this is why Discord is now being stingy on approving people for privileged intent, because they don't want them doing this, which is probably why Karuta has been denied for it, because even if Craig does think a few features do depend on it on his bot, I don't see which ones they are, and I can see why Discord has denied them their permission to keep using it. They've brought it up to some Discord staff, both public and private communications, hopes of getting some clarity of what's going on, but these conversations didn't go very far. Worth mentioning that this announcement was about a week ago, so obviously that didn't go well overall. We haven't had any update on this situation here, from Craig at least. So I think the point is Discord is trying to sort out people that are legitimately approving for privileged intent and people who are just trying to bypass using slash commands, and it's going to be very difficult to sort one from the other. That's Discord's job, and of course Discord has completely put it on themselves by making slash commands garbage and making no one wanted to use them. So yeah, that's basically what's going on with that one. If we flip over to the Maday official server here, we can get a little bit more information, because we can see that Maday has message content intent, so there are no changes, which we know is true because Maday can still read messages and is still using them from commands, but they've pointed out there is no guarantee for a bot to keep this intent, so it may be subject to changes in the future. And like I said, as far as I'm aware, there's nothing particularly that the message content intent is needed for in Maday. I may be wrong, of course. Saya knows more about the bot than I do, but it seems like a very similar case to Karuta. A lot of the time with the flags and such, this is something quite complicated to pass with slash commands, sometimes not even possible to pass with slash commands, unless you do like Karuta and just have a /k command, which is kind of managing to get around that, but good job Karuta for figuring that one out. They've done things like this where they've got extra slashes in here for sub commands and all that. They're doing some complicated things on Maday to try and make this work. For now, they have the message intent, but especially because there are a lot of bots that are deliberately trying to get around using slash commands by applying for intent, Maday is potentially going to lose it. Right, Saya is not confident that Maday can keep the intent, maybe not even for a long time, because Discord is clearly still trying to figure itself out, and Maday may lose it. Maday GM, as you can see, does not have message intent, so you now need to mention the bot in every message that you want it to respond to, starting from September 1st, which we've gone past now. So yeah, Maday and Maday GM, that's the situation with those two. They may not last forever. Now, I suspect that OWObot is going to be able to keep its message intent. I've already explained why that is. But as you can see, Saya is not confident about their situation. Craig is obviously not confident in his situation as well. Just generally, bots are being messed around by Discord, and Discord is being messed around by bots. It's all around a great situation for all involved parties, and it is completely Discord's fault, of course, writing slash command in the first place. So yeah. By the way, while we're looking at this Maday update, I may point out to you Maday users that we can now do multiple Pokerolls in one go, and we get more Kakura. So that's great. Couple small updates. Quality of life, random buff, just in case you're interested while we're on the way past. I'm not making an entire video on those two small changes. That would be ridiculous. But yeah, anyway, so that's basically the current controversy, I guess you could call it, maybe. It seems like a bit much, really. It's a bit of a strong word. But anyway, yeah, you can call it that if you like. With the message content intent, that's what's going on. Some bots have it, some bots don't. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. It's all guesswork. But for now, Owobot and Madei have it. Karuta does not. Other bots also do not. So, what are we talking about next? Well, I said we would talk about how to get around it. So we're going to be using Karuta as the example here because, of course, Karuta does not have the perms. So what are we going to do about that? Well, first, as it said in that announcement, you can ping the bots in order to get it to work. This is true. So if I ping, then it's going to do this. The point being the bot can read the message if you ping it, and so therefore it can respond to you. It will be the same if you apply ping to it, like this. That will also work. I think if you apply but without the pings on, I don't think it'll work. Not that I've actually tried it. No, it won't. So you do need to have the pings on. Makes sense to me. So yeah, that's one thing that you can do. And this works with most commands, maybe all of them now. It didn't used to work with all of them a couple of days ago. I think it was only working with like Vue and maybe KLU, something like that. Not sure. But it does seem to be working with all of them now. I mean, yeah, you can do like a visit and everything. So that's pretty nice. I'm not sure how long that's going to stay, but I don't see why it would go away. So this is probably going to be the new method. Most people are using commands now. I know certainly in my server, everyone is just using commands with the reply pings because it's easier than slash commands. If you are going to use slash commands though, I personally just use /k all the time because of course I do. It's far easier than actually using slash commands for everything. I can just use the one command. And as I said in my video before, you can copy paste this. So I can send that as a command. If I copy it, that's going to go straight in. I can do it again, so that's good. And then I can also use the up arrow on my keyboard to automatically fill the last used command in, and I can use it again like that. So that's a couple of ways to get around using slash commands, or at least use the slash commands a little easier. The final one I'm going to say, while this doesn't work with most bots, with Karuta specifically, you can actually use commands in its DMs. As you can see here, I can type commands here, and it will actually respond in DMs. You don't need to reply, you don't need to ping it, you don't need to use slash commands. In fact, I don't even think you can. You actually can, well never mind, you can use slash commands if you want. Kind of defeats the point in my opinion, but there you go, you can actually use commands in Karuta's DMs, and that is the case for a couple of bots, but I think most bots don't respond to commands in DMs. So if you have a bot that I've not talked about, most bots in fact I've not talked about, I don't want to go over every bot individually, just go and test and see for yourself if they have message content intent. But anyway, you're welcome to test in DMs to find out if it does respond. I know Owobot and Madei do not. That's the two that we have also been talking about in this video, but some do, such as Karuta. So yeah, if you can get it to work in DMs, that's going to be great, but it's worth noting that not every command is going to work in DMs. For example, if I attempt to do my drop, that command cannot be used here, which makes sense to be fair. So yeah, you can't do everything in DMs. And of course, if you're doing stuff in DMs like this, you're not going to be able to use other bots with it. So for example, if I want to be using Kaching bot to price check something or whatever, I'm going to need to use Karuta in a server where I have Kaching bot. Because they both need to be in the same place. So yeah, that's that. I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to say. Ways of getting around it and the content intent. So I think I'm going to end this video here. If you hate slash commands as well, give this video a like. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, slash commands are pretty rubbish. If you do want more information on that seriously, then you can go and have a look at my last video where I basically complained about slash commands for 15 minutes. I will probably continue to complain about slash commands in many different places, but here will be the first one. I don't want to make too many videos on slash commands now because that is 2 now, and while it's a big thing on Discord right now, I don't want to absolutely spam you guys with it, so hopefully we'll have something else come up next time. I guess it depends what interesting things happen on Discord between now and the next video, which should be in 3 days. So yeah, I will see you next time. Bye!